First, I intend and state that first announced reality of the reality that I built, or the composition of reality for the subject of reflective organization of data, which we be able to store data down and burn or store or program it down to a reel to reel or some floor to reality, how it records down to some some mask or matter or mathematical equation inside a microchip or on a vinyl or anywhere along the lines of any kind of idea. Most of the things are recorded down to a section in a theoretical sense of the substance and the realities is recorded down inside the fabric. So when it's recorded down inside the fabric, it has angles that it reflects and burns or records or programs or redexualizes onto. Most infernal realities have only like 1 to 88, 1 to 80, 1 to 100, or 100 or 200 angles or subjectional fields or reflexive, detailed subject matter or detailed matter or some idea of internal distortion vehicles. So reality that it only has recorded on 1/4 of a plane and has 400 specific angles and probably just one writing paper only gives anything inside science or reality a condition of any field, any kind of condition, any field, and probably any kind of inviolable reality. Only only 4% of the reality of what could happen. So in that, you're not going to have any kind of programming in any AI or any other probably science or any kind of full development of anything. Full development of anything. And to apply more full development, you need more space. I mean, more room. I need something to divide it so you have more planes to write upon. So one of the ideas I had was a box. A box goes into the definite reality of the atom, and the space beyond the atom is goes trillions and trillions, light years of trillions of miles past the atom. That's how small it gets. And there's something in the third called the submersion reality of vehicle length. It's called vehicle length. And vehicle, a subject in the matter that has fiber or fiber optic very formed of different kinds of conclusions down below the atom, but also has room for writing trillions and 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 trillions of micro TCCIC scope one, which would be like micro millimeters, in the sense of writing in a straight plane. Plane has 4 angles, so plane has 4 angles. So 4 angles are informed by the writing part happens on the plane's curve. The curve would be the wave or the fiber or the fabric or the distance between the light and the space in the vacuum that can recharge and vibrate and lift itself above itself. When I found the box idea, the tentative graphics, you have the space that you graph. That's 375 billion sides to the box. You take it down to the very ninth degree system of zero space. When it's zero space, it charges something into zero, comes back out, and it goes into zero, and it starts to build itself under space, which is 3.0 grams, 3.08 grams, 3.9 grams. It starts to build itself in space, and it starts to recharge and send the signal back and forth. It starts to bounce off of zero. And when it bounces off of zero, it's folding back itself, so it's curving up and down all around, and it's rebuilding itself and holding a metro figure dome, like a metro dome, figure of timing and expression that it calculates it at a rate of 3.090 seconds per atom square. So it's basically just still light. So still light comes to rest in the lights. The fragment that still light still has motion descendants. Also has waveforms or eccentricities, and before it can get any space, any kind of wave, any kind of general stereo, it has to have room to create the identity of it. So we're at 84% of the space between the atom and the beginning of space or the zero. So that'll be about 8.20 light 72 years out of the galaxy, 74,000 miles will take us here to the end of another star, which is like 0.0 micro centillion myostrix. So that would be 84%. 84%. 84% microspace is how long it takes, how many miles in sequence it is to get to a fiber. Is that input one microspace that we talked about? Like that one microspace, I did have microspace. It was 0.84. Or no, 0.84, that's fine. 0.84 is 0.454. So that'd be the 84 trillion light years or a section of milligram message units would be like 17 galaxies, but out of 300 reaches. So it'd be out of 300 Milky Ways. That'd be the space between the place where it may get some additional reality, where things start to become more like octave assisted wave or value assisted wave, or even the wave begins, or even the segment of any kind of value thing can begin. That'd be that long length. It's a short and for distance. Actually, it's VOC, version turn distance, occasion length, monitor length, tenor length, graphic length, input length. A road descendant that most of these vices stations in between that would be that building structure. Maybe somehow it can surface itself and build outside of space, even build a concentration of room. Room could be built. Room could be built at a genuine reality. That room could be actually attended and graphialized and be built into space. It can be built into space. This can be built in space. It can retrieve and bioadrestic reality and create space. It could create space. Creating space generally has an old view of sin that the space and creating the space inside this reality is probably creating space. It's probably doing just doing a value certification countdown of non-physical matter, non-physical additions to the surface of names and numbers that are legitimized to give the first elicitation of the waves. So I know from the zero it has to go to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 to get the exponent in the reality of time. So when we get down to zero, there's a space in between the time frame that's a vasticity, which is just probably pure thought of some sort, pure non-tradition column of like a situated volume that has no characteristics except for the extrician zero and the bounce of the bidden wave that goes from 0 to 9 to 10. And then it continues structure and begins to format itself at a wave gender. So the wave gender then forms into a conclusion that the box will begin there. Box will begin there and begin in a sense to like the bounce in the wave in the form of charged vibrations and build a semicolon, build a semicolon and you build a semicolon to build a reference to the box going over the top and under and begin this first self-reflective build against the wall. So it could build a surface of zero, so it could attend to the graphic nature and pull everything down from it. So you could have every included wave or every included fiber optic or situation location inside the space or time in the matter that we record ourselves down into, and build a valve representation that allows it to flow and monitor its reference, allows it to be subject to be written and programmed into. So we have built this subjective theory that lists a fiber representation, which would probably build a signal of some signal to the very end of space. Signal would divide itself, and the box will come out 300% zero, 300% zero, 300% zero, like 84.0.2 past, and outside of that wall will be the first symmetry tree of the first design. So the box has 40 trillion angles and lives inside probably the atom. So by the time we get to the atom, we build all these compositions so it can hold the diaphragm. The diaphragm can hold its space. We built all this space, all this time, all this frequency, all these miles we went through to build the box. In the atom, realized that we could write 600 trillion miles past the box or the atom inside a vehicle with ground wire. Ground wire, and the converter station, the view station, the value intents, the box decay, the registration station, the roller station, the line station, and the 400 trillion thousand point 094% and angle structural planes that recorded onto D-basis CTL programming, which is actually programming in rounds and rounds and rounds and beats. That programming rounds and rounds and beats records down to a supervised synthesis analog, which is like an intelligent kind of writing. Also writes down into computer components. So it writes in the structure that this box will give structure and the dimension in the plane and the purpose of building an interstructural plane, which the plane we have now is only one line or one like signal of some space. So if we create that signal of space and we make it into 75,000, then we got this shape, but we put it in a box, we got trillions. And the box and trillions in the shape that gives its purpose and it is a trillion point 0 point IDCCCUs, which would be a Viscosity and be as micro disk at its purpose is vast. May not be other additional systems we be known to subject the idea, but the idea will come in place in the frequency of international and international systems that I decided a few days ago. We're gonna have this box for a while. I decided the reality and let the industrial system of I be able to be inside the world forever. But other than that, we had nothing into it. Other than that, we had no way out of the condition but to move on to the next dimension. Now we have a complete structural system, the fiber residual box data reference key coder that can record and replicate data under 300 milliseconds per minute and can record 300 trillion IQ megabytes per second. So our GAT40s or whatever would not be GGTCCCCIOSSSEs. So it'd be RDRSSC7s. RDRSSC7s. RDRRSSC7s. I told Miles to Google that because he came to my Beagle. So I give him 10 and then I go, who the hell? It says Google right there. It said Google. And I'm like, who the hell will call himself Google on Beagle? Who will call himself Google on Beagle? And I said, and this guy, okay, got it. Mine's Google. He's like the benefactor, right? Or the owner or something. I give him a 10-minute lecture on this theory, the theory of the box and atoms. And I use like count number sequences, and they got the reality that the counting numbers, and it is a content and violation of information. He sends into reality that it's real, as concepts I have. But I stabilized the first opinion, the first deduction, give it our first period time, our first element to be able to have AI. We don't even have one plane, this old analog way of recording. Record down to digital restriction or any kind of analog signal will provide extraordinaries. So the cubic read of a box detensionalizes that theory, also develops more 1,000 trillion slides inside of it, where I could write on back and forth parallel universes inside of it. We can restore 84% of all data on one microchip to cast a few restriction bottomless to build bigger environments. So you get that, you build 75,000 of them, put them all together, and put that together, you got a cubic century heart, which is like a view of an block that can control almost anything you wanted to control. Take thousands of those together, and you put it, and you got century vibrant technology of AI's first mental capacity. And you put all those together, you got the vibrant resistance, you got like a resistor that has two tubes in it with two resistance and a microchip on the bottom. So it's a resistor with a microchip, so that's the two stretching. That's the first site to get the robot or any kind of intelligence and informed computers to respond. Take those and you put them together with all the ones you just invented, and you put them in labels. You got a telegraphic and engine. You put all that together, and you got a graphic engine. You put a telephone wire and some cables to it. You got a sub-monitor, you got a TV compressor. So the TV compressor, you got a TV compressor and TV one. You put the microchip back into it, and a bigger microchip and a full-filled microchip. You got the first program and additional radio signal for computer technology. So what I had for a few months already, I explained to my Google, and it caught it dawned on me yesterday, 2 days ago, that we don't have nothing for AI. I asked you guys to stop. You have nothing. You can't get anywhere with it. You just can't get anything within a modern computer. And so, okay, well, I got an idea. What about my box theory? And putting 89 internal angles, I give more identity. I give you your reason is that I give AI a original sense, because AI is foreverness. It's foundation to the public vision that we have now. Accomplished AI, so we're like in Terminator now. I'm like in Terminator. I depended on Cuba. I said, you people that fuck up. That's my robots fuck up, and they can fuck up, and they get like one wavelength, and they can start raping you, or they can start killing you, or they can start judging you, like doing a lot of things. Like that movie Monster plays with the marbles out there. It's just have you guys with the universe or